Hello and welcome to Current Wave. I'm your host, Ayla Wayman, and in this podcast, we meander through our shared delusions and stumble into ethereal shit-talking as we dive into the waves of the human experience. I'm so grateful to have you here. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope that you enjoy the ride. Hey, we're here. We're live. Well, welcome everyone to the next episode of Current Wave. I'm here with Sachi, Sato, and yeah, we're here. We're ready. I would love for you. Yeah, we finally made it. We've been trying to talk for a little while, and life is full and alive. I would love for you to introduce yourself in any way that feels good, even just for today.
Yeah. I'm Sachi. I am originally from New York, but I live in Los Angeles and I'm a creative. I wear a lot of hats, but my joys in life are creating music and producing music, writing, doing all the components. And I also read astrology and do intuitive reading and tarot and have done many things as well to make money in this crazy city. So I do visual arts, photography, I produce events, and kind of anything that like feels aligned with my spirit.
I love that. I'm really excited that we're also we've been trying to chat for a little while, but I love that we're actually chatting in Leo season and that creative energy that is just really a part of all of us and something that I feel is really important to kind of actually dial up right now. Like while the world is so wild and I feel like we're just in these weird moments continuously, they won't stop. And I think just tapping into our own creativity and creative powers feels really important. So I'm glad that we're kind of talking in this realm and that you wear so many hats because, yeah, when I was like putting this all together, I was very excited to just dive into creativity at large and then see where we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to start with just asking you, like, what is really lighting you up right now? What feels exciting? What feels alive? Like, what's bubbling up right now? What are you working on currently?
I'll say I do feel like Leo season has given me a lot of just like creative energy, like you said, and also
Mhm.
we're moved into Leo now for the next like a solid amount of time. I forget the exact amount, but basically just expands like anything that like we desire or we like anything that feels genuinely like self-expression, I think is just
Yeah.
expanded and we have a lot of like luck on our sides and just like creative energy. So I've been feeling that a lot. And I think some things that have really been inspiring me are like we were just saying this before we started recording is like the idea of like being mammals and like dancing between this like kind of spiritual like soul experience and also a physical experience and something that's been it sounds unrelated but something that I've been doing more often is like I've been really focusing on like my physical body and like really being in my body and through like weightlifting and just like working out and movement and that has been like honestly one of the most it's carried over so much into my creativity as well because I just feel this like I don't know, like this boost of confidence just like in being so connected like with my physical form, which has not always been the case for me. Like I think as creatives, we can so easily just jump into like cerebral, like very like spiritual, like soul kind of living and like we're not really connected. Can be very disassociated and oftentimes that's like a trauma response too for me. But I think like really like feeling my body and like being in my body has been like really inspiring to me.
I
Yeah.
love that. I feel that too. Of just yeah, it feels like there's something happening with the astrology that is having us kind of land more on Earth. I've
Mhm.
been having a lot of conversations around that. I'm experiencing that too. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I'm here in the physical." And
Totally.
if and it feels good, which it feels like that's a little bit of what you're saying. Like something
Mhm.
that hasn't always necessarily been easy to access feels more easy to access.
1,000%. And like, I think our society really like teaches us to like put aside what our physical needs are, like
Yeah.
for capitalism and for like, to like really like thrive in this world. And even also just like if you were raised like in certain religions, like there's a lot of like, I don't know, there's a lot of shame around the physical body. So I think like it's such a empowering, like almost like a, what's the word? Like rebellion to just like own it and like really be.
Yeah, totally. Especially as women, it's so important and our bodies are so powerful that reclamation is vital to our well-being, I think.
And like beyond even what we know, I think like science like has done like such few like experiments on like the female body that we know of at least.
Right.
And like I think we're like so beyond powerful, like, more than we could even imagine.
I totally agree. I just saw a new study came out because they've always said that like when that your eggs are developed in your womb or like while you're in utero and like the 3 generation thing of the development of eggs in utero, which is very cool. But they also are just finally discovering that actually we produce more eggs throughout our lives, which they've previously said wasn't possible. And
Crazy.
so we're much more like vital and alive and able to regenerate, I think, than they suspected. Because,
Mm.
as you said, like, there have been so few studies of the female body, they barely have any idea what's going on.
Oh my gosh. Like we were putting like plastic tampons with chemicals into our bodies for the past like God knows how long. And like we're just finding out like what
Like,
BPAs are and all these things, it's like insane.
I know, it's really interesting. Well, diving back into like what is lighting you up and feeling this Leo energy, I'm curious where Leo is in your chart and how you're connecting with that right now. And
Yeah.
that Jupiter entering Leo.
Yeah. So Leo, I'm a Libra rising. So Leo's in my 11th house mostly. Like I do
Okay.
Placidus. So
Okay,
full
same
sign
here.
would be one house per sign. But yeah, Placidus can be split. So I think there's like maybe a little bit in the 10th house, but mostly 11th house. So Leo really shines on like community for me and like the collective energy. And like I think that it does ring true because I've always been someone who like really thrives like taking initiative and leading and starting communities. And I think that's like with Sister Service, like I started this community for women when I was living in London last year because I was kind of lacking that. And I mean, you've been to the Sister Service stuff.
Yeah,
It's really fun. It's like this beautiful,
yeah.
just like safe space for women and non-binary folks. And we have like events and we do Zoom workshops, we do like yoga classes, all this kind of stuff. And it's been like I did it in London, I did it in New York, and it's been in LA now too. So it's been like I feel like the timing of that with like all of this like planetary motion in Leo is like not a coincidence, especially since it like sits in my house of community and collective. So I think that's been interesting.
I love that. I so see that for you. Like every time I see anything on your stories, you're always surrounded by people and community, and that seems really important for you. And I think that's really important for these times. So I'm glad that that is getting a boost for you to have
Yeah.
that impact on the collective. And yes, we met because you generously invited me like right when I moved here to one of your sister service events, and that was so sweet. It was like a little Galentine's deep little share and circle, and I loved doing that and being there and meeting you and all of the other beautiful women. Yeah, that was like so perfect for me that night. It was very impactful. So I love that and love that you're just out there doing all of these different things.
Yeah. And to be honest, like to be so transparent, like that's not always been me. Like it's always lived in me and it's always been important to me and like what I wanted. But there have been so many moments in my life where I really was like in my own shell and like very to myself.
Yeah.
Scorpio. So like there is a side of me and a Cancer. Like I need my time alone. But
Yeah.
like my Libra rising is like I need people. Like I need to throw parties. I
Mhm.
need to be at events and all that. So it's like I've just been learning a lot more about like balance, I think, or trying to.
Yeah, totally. I get that. I feel like also, yeah, with those more like extroverted rising signs, I do feel like that's sort of something that we evolve toward and work toward over time. It's like what we aspire to be, but might not naturally be. And that's an interesting self-development arc and like thing to grow into.
Yeah, it's like also like the south node to north node journey. I don't know if you know about
Yeah.
that, but like node is in Pisces. So like my like
Mm.
astral state is just like in the clouds in my own world, like
Yeah.
in the cosmos. And I feel like the journey for me is to head towards my north node, which is Virgo, which is very like it's a very physical sign. And I would say Virgos are very like social. I don't know if I feel like
Yeah.
that's like a known thing about Virgos because they're very like, particular, like very hard workers. But like all the Virgos I know are like the life of the party.
Yeah. I agree. I feel like they're definitely very much in the world, which might be like that physical aspect. Like they're out there. They're
Yeah, and they're
doing
ruled by Mercury too, so it's like communication.
right. It's
Yeah.
true. I love that. I
Mhm.
love that. I love that we're having all of these astrology threads woven in.
No, it's such a like
Perfect.
symbolism. It just ties in.
It really does. It's like once you kind of open that door, it's hard not to see it everywhere and that influence and feel it and know it and people's energy and the collective energy and all of the different things. I would love to go a little bit back into how you came to some of your creative work. I would love to talk a little bit more about your music and how that has come about. One day I was driving around doing a bunch of errands in LA and you posted one of your songs and I like pulled you up and I started listening to everything and it was such a vibe and so much fun. And how it made me feel was there was kind of like this very ethereal energy, but also like really fun and grounded, but deep and just so many layers, which I guess makes sense that you're a Scorpio because there was just so much going on. But it was so fun too. Like I was just driving and jamming, and I would love to hear how you came to music,
Yeah.
but also all of your creative endeavors because there's so many of them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, thank you for listening. I love that you
Yeah.
love the music. I think that's like honestly I'm glad that it translates like that because I feel like that's kind of just like my experience is like feeling like super layered, but also like yeah, it's just like the parallel of like the Scorpio and Libra rising. It's like I'm so
Yeah.
depth, but also like I'm like I want to go party about it and like tell the
Right.
world.
That's
Yeah,
how it feels. It's like you feel the depth and like the lyrics and the story is so deep, but then there's a little bit of like poppy energy, a little bit of fun,
yeah.
a little whimsy, a
Oh,
little all of those
love
other things.
that.
Yeah, so
But
fun.
yeah, how I got into music, so both of my parents are musicians, so I was born into like a very musical, creative family, and my dad's a jazz musician, so I grew up like going on
Okay,
tour with him as a baby, like on the
amazing.
tour bus, just like on the road with them, which was like I'm so grateful for because I feel like honestly subconsciously more than anything, like I
Mm,
just like it really like trained my ears and just like flooded me with like a lot of information from a young age.
yeah.
And like my parents never were like forcing me to do music per se. I mean, my mom like put me into cello at age 3. She's Japanese, like very Asian mother thing to do, but I didn't really stick with it. And I think the first instrument that I really like s- stuck with or was like piano lessons for probably like 10 years or so. And I was like it was very classical though. So it didn't speak to me in the way that I write now, but it definitely like trained something in me.
Yeah,
And then
definitely.
I kind of it's so funny. My mom was always like, "You really need to like. I think you should write songs." Like my mom is also a Scorpio, like very intuitive woman. Like she's like, "I think you're like you really like could write." Like she just like knew I was like a storyteller. But like of course, being a teenager, I was like no, I don't want to write songs. Like I want to sing them. Like and then I think I started going through a lot of things in my life, like especially when I was a young teenager. Like I had a lot of like traumatic things happen with men and like sexual abuse and things. And so I think like it just started to become this like tool, this outlet for me and like that. And I started writing songs and like that was like my safe space. It was like the only place I could go. Like I had like a really terrible high school experience and like I dropped out of high school when I was a junior and I did online school because I was like being bullied and all that stuff. So that was like, it became my outlet. And so I think that's really like what brought me to music, like truly, like obviously it was
Mm,
in my environment my whole life, but when I really had that like emotional connection to it is like when it changed everything. And And it's funny because like I was so resistant to writing songs, but then like it really flipped and like I was like, I'm just gonna write songs. I don't want to be an artist. So, like I moved to LA when I was 20 and like started writing for other artists and like really shut off that like that Leo energy for myself. I really shut off that like shining
Mm,
star kind of thing that is definitely within me.
yeah.
But I think like the more time went on, I was like, no, like I am an artist. And so it's been like, it's a long journey. I've had a lot of crazy LA experiences in my time here. And like, yeah,
But
there's a lot of lore, but definitely like, I think overall music has just been my, yeah, like honestly, my saving grace. And like, I wouldn't be alive without it truly. So I'm very grateful. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah,
it
no,
is.
totally. I just wanted to kind of hear that evolutionary arc because I think that usually when we look back, there are those threads and those things, even just early on, having that musical influence in your sphere.
Yeah.
I'm sure, as you said, like it trained you, it's in you subconsciously, and then finding your own access point to it later in life, obviously through like challenging moments, but that's such a beautiful like transmutation of whatever was going on and what you were experiencing and helping you experience and process and be in your own world and then make
Yeah.
that into art.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think like to piggyback off of that, I think like in terms of like the other creative things I do, I think honestly it all comes from the same place. It all comes from those same transmutations, but it's just like different manifestations. So like I've always just had a really like specific eye for like visuals and like I love doing my
Yeah.
own visuals and I started doing photography because I was dating a photographer like back in 2020 and that was like a really big moment for me to because like honestly like my ex like gave me a film camera and I just started shooting and then like within like the week I started shooting for the first time like I'd never really picked up a camera like I just started getting paid clients and it just like really took off so that was like really magical to see
Yeah.
and it's something that I still do and I love to shoot for like people that I really feel connected to but it is like I would say there's this theme in everything I do like I have to feel like on a soul level connected to someone that I'm working with otherwise like it just doesn't flow for me.
Yeah.
I don't know how to like expand on that more, but like write
Yeah.
people, like I can sit in a room and like do the pop writing thing. I don't know if you're familiar with that world, but it's
No.
really wild. Like you sometimes like you're put in a room and like I remember having like producers turn around and look at me and be like we're writing a hit today. Like write a hit. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Like just so disconnected. So for
Wow.
I
What?
know. Isn't that crazy? So for me, like everything I do, whether it's like visual or sound, like it always needs to feel like connected to like spirit, and I need to have a connection with somebody.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. I think that that is just a powerful place to move from. It is moving from like your own orientation to the world, your own truth, your own depth, your soul, and that creates unique and special work. Sure, it might not be a hit, but also it might. Like that, I think, is the best energy to create anything from, and that like purity and that truth. And then that just ripples out into the world and does its thing without that weird external pressure. It's really coming from the inside out,
Yeah, 1000%.
which is like to me like the only way to live and create. But to each their own.
I know. Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Yeah. Okay, I love all of this so much. It's so much fun. Well, with that, you've touched on it a little bit, but I'm curious in all of this if there are any kind of threads also from your childhood, your upbringing that feel important to share about or that you feel like have impacted this journey. You did touch on this for sure with your musical background, but I feel like there is often all of those little breadcrumbs along the way showing us our interests early on or those big influences of our parents or the places that we lived or how we were raised. So
Yeah,
anything else that you just kind of might feel alive in you right now that's influencing your work or guiding you or yeah, just anything about your path previously that feels
yeah.
alive.
I think that's a very intuitive question actually, because like going through my Saturn return, I think so much of the theme of the Saturn return is like going back to like that inner child version of yourself and like letting them live out the things that maybe they didn't get to do that first time around.
Yeah.
And just kind of like giving that inner child like a hug and also like the stage to just do what maybe was suppressed or whatever was lost throughout life up until now. So I do think there are a lot of different things that have come up for me, especially in the past like year. Like I had actually left LA last year and I was living in London and Paris and like had the best times. But I came back to LA, moved back New Year's Eve, and really like fell back in love with this city because I kind of left on like a sour note. And I think it's interesting because when I think about like a breadcrumb, like when I was in fourth grade, I remember Mr. Rozoff's class. My fourth grade teacher, we all had to choose a state. And I was like, I'm choosing California. Like, I'm going to live there. Like, as a fourth grader, I was like, I'm going to live in LA. Like, I love like everything about this. Like, I don't even know. I just like always knew I was going to like be in California. Like, I just had this like tuition from a young age. And that's something that's actually kind of happened to me many times. Like before I moved to London, I had like a really strong calling to go there. And like when I went, just like so many things magically fell into place. Like I met all the right people. I made so many really close friends, made so much music. And I think that is kind of open to any of us. Like I think we're all really like intuition is something that has been like framed as like something that only some people have, but I think everybody has it and like we all have so much access to it, especially women, but also men and non-binary people, of course. I think that like you just if you listen like carefully enough, like you'll feel the call to do certain things or like go to certain places and like I think I'm grateful that I've had the courage to do that. I think I've just never been afraid really in my entire life. Like many things have happened to me that I should have been afraid of, or, you know, it should have pushed me away from different things. But I think I'm very determined. And like when I have my mind set on something, I just do it. So I think, yeah, those little breadcrumbs have definitely like led me for sure. Like there's so many like little puzzle pieces and I feel like I'm still looking at them. I'm like, okay, this is happening now. What's next? Like, I feel like it's just like an ever continuing thing, but I have no idea what's going to happen.
Totally.
Like,
I know, I feel like I'm continuously like right now, like turning around a blind corner. Like there's a lot of momentum, but I have no idea what is happening.
no, I feel
For all of us, I think we're all kind of like in that collectively. Like we don't know where we're going, but we're going somewhere.
we're going like full speed somewhere. No idea where the destination is, but we're on the way.
Yeah, totally. I love that. I love everything that you just mentioned and just really having a cultivated intuition and as you said, like being brave enough to follow that and follow those threads and move. And I'm like that too, just getting those impulses and that information that I do also think that is just available to us. I think that humans are intuitive creatures, intuitive mammals, as you were calling us earlier. And it's powerful, but it's not necessarily easy to do. And I do think that if you do that, you end up living a different type of life. That does, I think, feel more like I think it's very challenging because mostly because the world isn't set up for it.
Mm-mm.
But I think it ends up feeling really true, even in that challenge.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a cool thing to do. And I'm just curious in the next few years, like how everything will go. And hopefully the world can become more supportive of that ultimately. Of
Definitely.
just like doing their own thing and being able to thrive and not be in these very strict structures and containment that has been set up that just doesn't work for any of us ultimately.
No. No, even the people that it seems to be serving, like it's really not serving their highest calling or their purpose. Like none of us are thriving off of this system.
Totally. Totally. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, gotta stay positive. Like it seems
Yeah.
so silly to say, but like when you think
Yeah.
like, the severity and the weight of the things that are happening in our world, like, but when there's only so much that you can do in your own like physical surrounding, I feel like you have to, first of all, I think like work on yourself because that's like has a direct ripple effect on everybody around you. Like
Yeah.
Like, I think that's like one of the most powerful things you could do, but also just like staying positive and like bringing light into people's lives, regardless of how dark it is, you know?
It's
Especially,
so important. It's like we're here anyway. We may as well have like I don't want to say necessarily like have fun, which we should definitely have fun, but we should just be that like uplifting energy, that light, that goodness, and not acknowledge all of the darkness because that's also really fucking real. But yeah, I love it. I'm glad you're out there doing that in your way.
trying, we're all trying.
You are. You're totally doing it. And I would love to dive into your creative process and just sort of like how you work, how you create, how ideas come to you. Like some people have a clear process and sometimes it's just random, but I would just love to hear what that's like for you.
Yeah. I have a very like it usually happens the same way, but it happens in like it manifests differently. Like I oftentimes will just get these like downloads, I guess you could call them, and like if it's in like a music form, it'll be like I'll get like a melody and like words like all at the same time, and it'll just kind of like pour out of me, and it's very much like being the vessel and just like letting whatever is flowing through me flow through me, and like I didn't realize that that's like kind of like channeling, and I didn't realize that that was what it was because I've just been doing that my whole life. But until somebody like kind of explained that to me, I was like, oh, that's like what I've been doing this whole time. But it's, I think, yeah, it's interesting because when I'm collaborating with other people, like that's when I'm alone and like when I have the liberty of like waking up at 3 a.m. because I have this like full fledged idea that like has to come out, otherwise I'm going to forget it. Or even if it's just like a visual idea, like I do a lot of voice memos. And for me, I do a lot of like movement. A lot of my downloads come like when I'm walking or yeah, like I have like a Mercury and Sag, so I feel like a lot of my like communication and just like yeah, I like my brain starts moving when I walk and when I'm actually like moving around like physically or like traveling. But if I'm collaborating with people, that's been something I really had to learn because a lot of like I don't think I learned how to properly like do music or create because like when you're I think when you're like I don't know how to put this into words, but when you're like channeling, it's like your like logical brain isn't there. So I never was like obviously I know how to like produce and like I do like, you know, I use all like the software and everything. I can do that, but like it's more so like the process has always been like what process? Like it just is. And so when I that became highlighted when I started working with other people because I was like, "Oh, like I have to like figure out how this flow is going to go or like just like feel vulnerable enough to like allow myself to go into those kind of states. But I think like you have to really trust the people you're working with to allow yourself to like do the stream of consciousness thing when you're with people, I think. Or at least that's how I feel.
Yeah,
I can access that if I don't trust someone enough to at least be vulnerable. Does that make sense?
totally. I love that. I mean most of my I really relate to everything you're saying and most of my work I just do alone and then anything that I create with someone else, it ends up being because there is a very clear bond and it's almost like they enable that channeling ability and like that skill and us together just somehow flow and work together. But I don't, yeah, I don't do music or anything in that realm. So I am so curious about that process or even I know you do so many different creative things, but it is different. It's like there does have to be that trust for that channel to feel alive and open and vulnerable, as you said. So I love that. I think that's really interesting to kind of like reflect on and think about more specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, beautiful. And yeah, I'm curious like how being a creative person and having all of these different projects and things that you do, how do you kind of cultivate that environment for yourself? Like what's important to you? Is your home important or your kind of routines and rituals, things that just help you feel good and feel like that creativity is more at your fingertips, more accessible, more
Yeah. I think one thing that has been really helpful, I mean, definitely living alone. Like that's one of the biggest things has been like I've like I mean, I'd always had roommates. I lived with like past partner, but I just realized like when I'm alone, I just like move so differently. It's like the idea of like objects being observed like move differently, like on like a like physics level, like atoms, literally, or like particles or whatever. They move differently when they're being observed versus when they're just like doing their thing. And that concept has always been really interesting to me because like I think I don't know if it's something in my chart or like just like how I was raised, but I really have like a specific relationship to being perceived, like especially when I'm creating, where like I'll notice like if I think someone's like listening to me while I'm working or something, like it just changes the way that I like consciously work and it almost like takes me out of that like stream of consciousness. So I'm like starting to like think about like, oh, like what does this sound like? When like I think when you're creating, like I think you have to really like let go of the critique until you're done and then you can kind of go back and edit, at least for me. But so like definitely living alone is important for that and like I'm grateful that I can do that because it hasn't always been the case. I mean even up until recently like I this is the first time I've lived alone in like many years and when I was in London I was like had two roommates and was like, you know, in a tiny little room because like it's so expensive, but I think LA is beautiful because it's giving me the opportunity to live alone and like you can have so much more space for what you pay here.
Yeah.
But also in terms of like what how do I cultivate my creativity? I think I'm very grateful to have a remote job like on the side. I work for a radio station and like that has been such a honestly such a gift and I'm yeah, like to be able to work from home and to have my own schedule because I'm someone who also really does not do well in like a scheduled environment where like I have to do the same thing every day. Like literally like the most depressing thing to me. Like to show up and do the same thing every day. And I've done that. Like I've worked like so many different jobs, like every job you could possibly imagine probably. But I think like for me, what works best is like being free to like change my mind during the day or like not have a set schedule and like not necessarily have a scheduled time to create and just like have the ability to like to just go do it like in the middle of the night if I have to. And obviously like I have scheduled sessions with people or this and that, meetings and stuff. But like I think just having the flexibility to do like 80% of it on my own time is like such a gift and I'm very grateful for that.
Mm, yeah, I feel like that is totally so key if you're really are able to create enough of that spaciousness in life to follow those ideas and follow those threads. That's continuously my goal. Like my ultimate goal is just to have spaciousness to do the thing that I want in each moment. Like that is absolute success to me.
Literally same. Oh my God.
Yeah, because it's just like when that creative impulse arises, like when you want to write or draw or paint or whatever that is, or even just go grocery shopping at a weird time. Like that's my goal always
Me
is
too.
moving toward that. So I love that you share that. I resonate. And that also really does help that creativity because we are kind of getting those impulses and ideas all the time. But when we don't have the space to pursue them, to me, there's nothing worse. Like that is the most like frustrating feeling when I'm like, oh, I have this idea and I just want to be able to do it, but I have to do this other thing.
Oh my God.
It's just like you feel like you're being drowned or something. Not
No.
to be dramatic.
No, seriously.
Not
It
pursuing creativity will kill me.
no, it really does feel that way. Yeah.
Yeah, so I love that. Amazing. Okay. I'm curious about also in the creative process, like being a creative is very challenging as well. Like there's a lot of highs and lows and it's this big circular emotion of ideas and doubt and confusion and all of these things. So I'm curious about kind of the more challenging aspects of being a creative and how you move through any of those, like whether that's doubt or fear or also like I don't know, when ideas are stuck, like when creativity isn't flowing, when inspiration isn't flowing. I'd
Yeah.
love to just speak about that part of it.
I think one of the biggest helps for me in terms of like I don't feel stuck really. I'm so grateful for that. But I
Yeah.
because I do a lot of different types of creativity, so it's like if I don't feel like making music this day, I'm gonna like shift to like doing something visual or like doing something like
Yeah.
in a different way that feels creative because I think when you like live by the feeling of like everything you do is inherently creative because you are creative, like it feels like less like there's pressure around what and when you create. And I think obviously like it's not always been that way for me. Like I've had to like learn that. But I think like challenges are definitely like staying on timelines or like focusing. Like I have so much that like it's so difficult. Like just weeks can go by without me doing the thing that I've like really the only thing that I wanted to do, you know? Like my brain so like in the clouds. So that's definitely hard. But I think yeah, I think in terms of, I'm also just, I would say something that's difficult, but I wouldn't change it is like just having like really strong, really deep emotions. I think my whole life has been a huge theme is like, it's like the price of creativity almost has been like being this like extremely emotional person where like there are many times in my life where like I was very unregulated and like had to go on medication or like have had to have different kinds of like therapy and all sorts of stuff. But I think it's just kind of like what comes with like working in these fields or like I think the openness that is
Yeah,
required to work in these fields.
that makes sense. Yeah, like being that channel, you have just so much coming in, and that sensitivity to it all is overwhelming.
Absolutely.
I get that. Yeah. What would you say to someone who wants to cultivate more creativity in their life, like in any way? If you have any thoughts or suggestions, like on creativity at large.
Yeah. I feel like this sounds kind of weird, but there's like two things that I recommend a lot to like clients when I'm reading astrology or just like friends. I think for me, if I'm feeling like I'm not creative in a moment or something, like it's normally because there's too much input. And so one thing I would recommend is like cutting the noise, like logging off of the social media, like turning off music. There's moments where I don't listen to other people's music if I'm making music because I just am way too absorbent for that. Like
Yeah.
and so I would say cut the noise. And then the second thing I would say is like move your body. And like I tell a lot of clients to do voice memo walks. Like that sounds really weird, but go for a walk and just like when you get into like a nice flow, just start like recording a voice memo and speaking and like train. Like it feels weird to like be talking to yourself, but like train yourself to like allow that flow without like needing the logical mind to like stop you. So yeah, voice memo walks is what I call them.
Yeah. I love that. That's also when I have like I feel like there's something about walking that just allows your brain to like sort things. Like I'll go on a walk and just feel like I understand all of these things or I know my next step or like things just fall into place or the ideas just drop in and then it's magical. I love that. That's incredible advice and suggestions. And we've already, it's funny, I had like some astrology questions in here, but we've kind of been weaving it all through. But I would love to hear kind of how you came to the astrology and the tarot aspects
Yeah.
of what you do and all. And yeah, just would love to hear more about that part.
Yeah. That came, I think I've always, I've always really had a strong intuition and like connection to like just something else. And then astrology, I think when I moved to LA, like I really like started to learn because like being from New York, people aren't like asking you what your sign is. Like that's just not a conversation that happens back then, at least. Like now I think it does. But I think astrology, like I have loved it for like probably the past like 4 years and like really started to like learn more about it. But let's say in the last year, I really started tapping in and I through Bench and actually I found out about Jules Ferrari, who's like this incredible astrologist. She's a podcast called I think Initiations and it's like really, really good. And she does something called astrology school. So in January, I started astrology school and like finished level 1. I'm doing like second level now, which is like more in depth and everything. But I just like that kind of like started that like officially started my journey. But I've like been very interested in it for a long time. But I like actually like did the course this year, which is really exciting.
Amazing. I
Yeah,
love, yeah, I know her name, but I haven't like dove into her work, but I've seen her stuff and
amazing.
cool. I love that.
Yeah, she's just so I love the way she does it too, because it's very like Jungian, like psychology kind of like archetype based rather than like I think there's a lot of different types of astrology. There's a lot of like pop astrology or like this and that. And like, I think there's so many different like apps people use, but I just love Jules' take on it because it's very like, there's no bad astrology. There's no like bad signs or like bad placements. It's all like places to work more on or like to work with, you know? So I love that. And then tarot really happened randomly. I think I was going through like a breakup in 2023 or something. Or maybe it was 2024. Yeah. Like almost 2 years ago. And I had always had interest in it, but I also was raised like Christian, so I was like very like told not to like do those things or like be in anything that was like witchcrafty or this and that, which is like so funny. But I just kind of like felt called to do it. So I got a deck and like normally people like you're not supposed to like buy your own deck. People are like, oh, it should be given to you. But I don't know. I just like felt like I needed to get one. So I did. And it was just crazy how accurate things would be. Like I didn't do readings for people for like the first 2 years I did it. I was like really set on just doing it for myself or like maybe a friend if they came to mind. But eventually, like I would wake up one morning and like someone's name would pop into my head. And I'd be like, oh, I think I'm supposed to read for them. So I would like pull some cards and like give a reading and I would like send them a voice memo. And I'd be like, this is really weird, but like it'd be people I hadn't talked to in like maybe a year or so. Like your name came up in my meditation. Like I thought it, like I just did a reading for you. I hope it like resonates. And if it doesn't, that's cool too. I just like thought I would share it because I felt like I was supposed to. And they would like send me back like, oh my God, I'm crying. Like, how do you know like this is what's happening? Like just like the craziest responses. Like I was like, okay, this is like definitely something I'm supposed to be doing. But I'm very careful about tarot. Like I only do it when I really feel called to do it for someone because I think oftentimes like we really already know the answers that we need. And I think it's just like it's very validating tarot, but also I think there are certain moments there's just like times to use it and times where I don't think it's necessary. Like anything.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I know it's interesting. Like I'm not super like deeply studied in it or anything, but I'm like I'm taking a personal break because
Yeah.
I'm like I don't know it isn't I'm in a phase where it's just not helpful. It's like all of my own experiences are just like no external influence. Like I am being guided to just not even that, which I think can just be a reflection of that internal world, as you were saying. But it's interesting. I love that though. And it's fun to have these tools and expressions and ways of working with the self and the unknown, the unseen worlds, these little bridges. I love that. And before we started recording, we were talking about Saturn return and that energy and you sort of being in that space, which honestly is one of my favorite times. It's really challenging, but Saturn really does want the best for us. Like Saturn's role is putting us on our rightful path. And I think that it just it's really uncomfortable in those sad Saturnian moments because it will just tear down anything that isn't ultimately aligned. And I think in that moment, it feels horrible and we can't see the big picture. So it just feels like loss and things not working and everything going wrong. And then I'm a few years out of my Saturn return and I'm like, that was literally the best thing that ever happened.
Mm. I love that.
My gosh, like just on the other side of it, it's so good and so important. But I think a lot of people are in this age range who listen to this show
Yeah, yeah.
in that moment of like, what the fuck is going on? Why is everything so messed up? Because it can feel like that. It's just like, why is nothing working for me? But
Yeah. No, Saturn doesn't play. Saturn's like
yeah,
our greatest teacher. No, seriously, like
for real.
definitely our greatest teacher, but I love hearing that like from someone on the other side of it, like yourself, like it's so inspiring and encouraging, I think, to people like me who are going through it because there are moments where I'm like, what is going on? Like, there's just, it's almost like it's not even like specific events that will be happening. It's more just like this internal, like deep, like
Yeah.
psyche, like feeling and like things coming up out of the woodworks that like I haven't thought about in years. Like it's a lot of like internal work, I would say, at least for me. Maybe I mean I think every like wherever your Saturn is placed, like it's going to be different. But I think like seventh house, like for me, like it's all about like relationships, and I think relationships teach you so much about yourself and your relationship to self too. So
Yeah.
that's a really big one. But yeah, Saturn returns are it's interesting because we have them like 3 times in our life, I think. So like when you're about like 27, then when you're like 49, 50-ish, I think. And then when you're like 70 something or 80. I don't know the exact years. I have to look, but
Yeah.
well, it's like these 3 like really big moments. Like the second one that happens when you're like around 50 is like your midlife crisis. That's interesting that like people will call it that if they're not, like I think it's the timing is very interesting. But I just think it's these, yeah, I think it's these really beautiful like, what's the word? It's like they're like very catalytic. They like really like cause you to look at what's happening around you and like within your life, and like it's like a kind of like a check-in point. It's like, okay, this is how things have gone up until now. How do you want them to go moving forward? Because these things aren't working. And if you don't listen to us this time, like we're just gonna deal with it for you and you're not gonna like it. Like, you know what I mean? Like the sad, it's like if
Yeah,
you're
you have a choice.
literally, it's like you can either make this easy or make this tough. And like none of it's easy, but it's like the more you resist it, the worse it's gonna be. Like you have to just like surrender to Saturn. That's like the only thing that the only thing
Yeah,
that's been helping me at least is like knowing that advice and like having heard all this before going into it and like fearing it for a really long time. But now just being like, okay, like it's beautiful to think about just getting to know myself better and like being put more on alignment. Like it's all just like pointing us to our most aligned path. So
it really is. Like,
yeah.
I am so convinced of that, having gone through like a really tough Saturn return myself, and then having a lot of friends who have been in that process too. And I just think like Saturn really just wants to initiate us into ourselves. And
Mm,
like that is the whole thing, and exactly what you're saying. Like you're being shown things, and it is like deep psyche work. I think there ends up being a lot on the external, but for me it was so much about this feeling and this internal conflict and this internal processing of who I really was and what I really wanted.
mm,
And the life that I had at that point was not it. And so I essentially, but that's like when you're in a life, you don't want to just, you don't, it's how do you even leave what you have? And you can't see the other side at all. So it feels terrifying. It just feels like plain loss. Or that's how it was for me. It was just like, I can't let go of this because this is my literal life and all I know. And then I was also completely unwilling to do anything. So then everything was just like, okay, well, if you're not going to do this, we're just going to blow everything up for you. And you know, the most magical thing is at by the time I was 30, I felt like I was born for the first time. I was like, "Oh, this is life." Like I felt like I finally arrived fully in my body and on earth. And then I was able to do the things that I wanted to do and always wanted to do. And I had to kind of go through that. So I love talking about this just because I think it's so powerful and it's so tough when you're in it. And then on the other side, I think that it's always a lot like, just so much more aligned and so much more easeful, and it also might not be what you thought it was going to be, or it might be exactly what you thought it was going to be and just, like, couldn't do before then.
totally. No, I think it's like, to me, it sounds like the best case scenario. Like if it's beyond what I can even imagine, like
Yeah,
great. I can't
great,
wait. Like surprise me,
but
please.
I love that, but I love that you're sort of in that phase and that moment. I just I'm very into that energy.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm curious also just, like, in this astrology section of the conversation of if there's any astrology in your chart or in like at large that you think about when you think about creativity or placements that you find in your own self that kind of play into that, if any, like that also might not be the case.
Yeah. I mean, I think I love something that Jules always says is that like we have all 12 signs. We have all archetypes. Like we're
Yeah.
even if there's no planets in one sign, like I don't have any planets in my Leo, but I feel so much of the Leo energy, like when it comes to community and like just during Leo season, it's like we have the chance to kind of tap into anything we really want. And I think in terms of creativity, like I think that I love looking at places that are kind of pinned as like the trauma or like
Mm.
harder placements. Like I love looking at like a Chiron or like a Lilith. I think the Lilith is like to me a really creative place because it's a part of us that has been shamed or a part of us that we've like turned away from or like hidden or was told was too much or was told was like this like but it's actually like the most powerful, especially as women. And so I think like looking at like where your Lilith is placed, it's like you can see like in which area of your life maybe like this like untapped creativity lies. And same with Chiron. It's like the wound. It's like the wounded warrior. It's like because I oftentimes, at least for me, I think being a Scorpio, like I've become very comfortable with the process of alchemization, which isn't necessarily a comfortable thing for everyone, but I think I truly believe we're all given the exact tools that we need in our lifetime. And like, as fucked up as that sounds, like I'm not saying things happen, like terrible things are happening so that we can like profit off of it later or whatever. But I will say like the worst things that are like the worst things that have ever happened to me in my life, like some of the most painful, like terrible things have turned into the most like incredible medicine in their own way. And so I would look at like your Lilith or your Chiron and see like which house they're in, what sign they're in, and really like tap into that part of yourself and like reflect on like where has this part of myself been like shied away from or shamed? Where have I not given this part of myself like enough attention or love? Because sometimes it's like our own doing. Because I think those are the places that like we can alchemize the strongest and then turn into something like really, really powerful.
I love that. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, I love that. Amazing. Well, I feel like we've also, and before we were recording, we were talking about this energy of the moment and the collective and these like big shifts that I feel like are astrological shifts, but are also just so palpable to everyone, whether or not you're kind of like in this world or. And with that, I'm curious about your own experience of kind of what's coming up for you. Like, what are you moving toward? What do you feel like is on this horizon that we can't see, but maybe you can sense or feel? Anything that's coming into your field?
Definitely. I think I've had a true winter this year.
Mm,
Coming back to LA and like really like for the first like up until the past maybe up until like May or so, like I was very much to myself inside, like of course like seeing friends sometimes, but like really doing a lot of work and healing because I had come out of this like crazy summer experience, like summer themed experience, I guess, like being in London and like I ended up getting really sick and run down and like so I needed to come back and like rejuvenate myself and really look at like parts of myself that needed needed to be grounded, to be honest. Like I was just like in like a really constant state of fight or flight for a long time. So I think this year has been so important because I've stayed in one place. Like I haven't left LA really for the most part. I went to New York for one show one weekend, but like other than that, I've been in LA since like November, end of November, December. So I would say it's like I think what's coming up is kind of like the fruits of that labor. Like I think where I was like inside this winter, I think like I've definitely been going out more right now, but I think my time to like perform again is coming up. Like I'm really excited about just like putting myself out there and sharing all the music that I've made in this little winter season. Like I have a project coming out either at the end of August or beginning of September. I'm still like getting the exact date set, but it's a project that I'm like very proud of that I produced and wrote all by myself in my bed actually is how I started it. But that's like done and ready to go. We filmed 3 music videos last month, all kind of in like very mystical ways. Like people came to me that just like wanted to do visuals with me and like because they liked what I do and like I like what they do. So it was just like a very collaborative, beautiful experience. And like I wasn't looking for anything. It really just like came, which feels very aligned because I think there have been times in my life where I was like really actively searching and chasing things that like maybe weren't in alignment for me at the time. So I think I'm just kind of welcoming whatever like I do feel like there's a big shift coming and like it is scary. It's like it's nerve-wracking rather, but like I'm excited to like channel that energy into like creativity and also just yeah, to allow myself to be seen and like to shine, I think.
I love that. That's so beautiful. That feels so good. I feel like that's such a nice place to kind of wrap up actually, of just feeling that energy, that shining. Is there any kind of like final anything you want to share or touch on or that's coming to mind?
Trying to think, I would say is just like the things that have helped me most in this life are really like again cutting the noise, coming home to myself and like listening to my physical body. I feel like those are the big themes of my life right now and like if I could give anybody else advice that I also need to follow myself is to continue to come home to yourself and to like listen to what is ringing true for you, regardless if anyone else around you relates. Like sometimes your path is like so unique and different that even like your closest friends aren't going to understand it until you're like already like halfway down the path, you know? So that would be
Yeah.
like, the other thing to add.
I love that. I think that's like the truest and most like simple thing that's hard to hold and hard to remember and hard to do and be in, but
Mhm.
it really is it. Simple. I know it's like, yeah, the world is just moving so fast right now, so I think it's a really good reminder for all of us. Yeah. Well, how can people find you and your work
Yeah.
and connect with you?
You can find me on Instagram. My Instagram is Moulin Bouge. It's Moulin Rouge, but with the B and Bouge. But if you look up Sachi Sato, you'll find me. If you're in LA, or if you like want to tune in from Zoom, Sister Service, there's an Instagram. It's just Sister Service, but we have a workshop on Saturday coming up. I don't know when this will be released, but we have lots of things coming up in the next few months. So yeah, you can follow Sister Service, and then yeah, I'm on all platforms: Spotify, iTunes, Sachi Sato.
Amazing. And yeah, all of it will be listed and linked, but helpful to just hear it. And yeah,
Thank you for having me. This is so fun.
thank you for being here. I'm so glad that we got to dive in a little bit and chat.
No, that was so fun.